All right, we're on week 9, set 1, SWYK 1. We're dealing with solving quadratics, not by factoring. We're going to take square roots. Yeah, see, we could do this by factoring, just like we talked about before, right? We could split x squared minus 16 because it is a difference of perfect squares. We could split that up into x plus 4 and x minus 4, set the two factors equal to 0 and solve, but we don't need to. When there is no linear term, right? There's no linear x term. It's just a squared term and a constant term like that. We can simply move it to the other side, right? Giving us x squared equals 16. And then we can take that square root as evidenced here. And you do have to remember something, that when you are dealing with a solving situation and you take a square root, there are two possible answers, plus and minus 4. It does say use a comma to separate answers, so you would need to do that kind of thing. Let's move on to question 2. Now, in this case, obviously, the 80 has been put on the other side, unlike in the last question where we had to move to 16. But we still do have to get the x squared by itself, and to do that we'd have to divide by 5. This puts us in the exact same situation we were in before. Okay? So, moving on to the next question. Clear that out. Very similar situations going on here. We divide by 4, get rid of that, and that gets us 2. Now, when we take the square root, like we do here, the square root of 2 is not a nice number. So we have to stop. We have to stop with plus and minus radical 2. And we want to type our answers using radicals as needed and use commas and all that good stuff. So, radical 2 is one answer, negative radical 2 is the other. Do I need it? Can I switch the order? Sure, no big deal. Whoop, too fast. Come on, question 4. Okay, so similar situation here. Cancel on the 25s. Now, 9 over 25, I left the fraction the way it is. I know some of you hate fractions, but guess what? 9 and 25 are both perfect squares. So when you take the square root of both sides, what's the square root of 9? What's the square root of 25? That's what leads us to the plus and minus 3 over 5. So we get fractions for answers. Might as well leave them like that. Don't change it to a decimal. Okay. I think that would be, I don't think that would be to your advantage anyway, since they're nice numbers. Next question. Question 5. All right. So they say things like factoring, using tables, graphing, and as you can see, I crossed them all off. We don't need to use those. We're going to use square roots like we normally would. Okay? So, you can notice right in the beginning what I did. I took the square root of both sides. I went, and whatever you do, do not FOIL. Whoa, that would be a huge waste of time. Okay? Square root both sides. That turns this side into plus and minus 3. We add the 3 over to the other side. So we end up with 3 plus 3 and negative 3 plus 3. Well, obviously 3 plus 3 is 6. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So the two answers are. Sorry for yawning. I know you always tell me that you hate that when I do that. Yeah, we're good there. Question 6. Once again, no FOIL. Do not FOIL. Just go straight for the square roots. And that gets me my plus and minus 9 over here. Subtract 1. So we have 9 minus 1, which is 8, and negative 9 minus 1, which is negative 10. Whatever you do, don't solve the first one and say, oh, the first one's 8. The other one has to be negative 8. Okay, you'll lose on that one every time. Almost every time. You know, some situations are like that, but not this one. Question 7. Have to, divide by 2, get rid of that. Then we hit it with the old square root. Now, on this one right here, the square root of 20, going back to your geometry days, simplifying radicals. Remember that whole thing where we would look for the largest perfect square, that we could think of that went into 20, right? So you'd take a look at all your list of perfect squares, and we know that 4 goes in 5 times. Well, the square root of 4 is 2, so we have plus and minus 2 radical 5. Well, when you subtract that to the other side, you can't combine that. Not unless you change everything to decimals, and we don't need decimals. So the answers to this question look like this. -1 plus 2 radical 5 and -1 minus 2 radical 5. In the future, you're going to see this. These are actually called conjugates. So if you see that term, conjugates, irrational conjugates to be specific, but they are conjugates nonetheless. Anyway, that's how you handle that one. And we're done with this particular SWYK. Hope you do well on the SWYK. Have a good day.